Hello everyone. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in the middle of a storm. The wind is strong, the rain is heavy, and everything around you feels uncertain. You try to hold on to something solid, but the harder you grip, the more it slips away. This is how suffering in a relationship feels. It is like trying to fight a storm with your bare hands. But storms are not meant to be fought. They are meant to be understood. And when you understand, you begin to see the way out. A woman ends suffering in a relationship not by controlling the other person, not by changing their nature, but by returning to herself. Suffering often comes when you place all your happiness in the hands of someone else. You wait for their words, for their attention, for their approval. But the more you wait, the more empty you feel. Freedom begins when you stop asking the outside to give you what you can only grow inside. When there is pain, it is often because of attachment. You attach to an image of how the other should be. You hold on to expectations of how love should look, but reality does not always match the picture in your mind, and so suffering grows. The way to end it is not to fight against reality, but to see it clearly. When you see clearly, you realize that your peace is not dependent on another's actions. It is born from your own awareness. In every moment you have two choices: to stay where you are or to step forward, to remain in the circle of pain or to step out of it. The step out is not always easy, but it is always possible. When a woman finds her own strength, when she remembers that her worth does not need to be given by another, then she no longer feels trapped. She begins to breathe again. Sometimes people believe love means holding on, but true love often means letting go. Letting go of illusions, letting go of demands, letting go of the fear of being alone. In the space that letting go creates, you discover something far more powerful than clinging. You discover self-respect. You discover calm. You discover the courage to walk your path without begging for someone to walk beside you. Ending suffering is not about ending the relationship. It is about ending the inner prison that you have built within yourself. When you stop fighting for control, when you stop measuring your value by another person's behavior, you find that the storm weakens. The rain may still fall, but it does not drown you anymore. A woman ends suffering in a relationship when she chooses clarity over confusion, when she chooses strength over fear, when she chooses to return to herself instead of losing herself. And from that place of wholeness, she either rebuilds with her partner in a new way, or she walks away with peace in her heart. Either way, she is free. There comes a moment in life when a woman looks at herself and begins to ask the most powerful question: who am I without the opinions and judgments of others? Who am I if no one praises me, no one validates me, no one tells me I am enough? The answer to this question holds the key to ending much of the suffering she carries in relationships. When a woman realizes that her worth is not dependent on another's validation, she takes back her power. This realization is not simply a thought. It is a transformation in how she lives and how she sees herself. For too long, many women have been conditioned to measure their value by how much love they receive from someone else. A compliment from him makes her feel beautiful. A cold word from him makes her doubt herself. His attention lifts her high. His neglect breaks her down. This cycle of dependency keeps her trapped in a constant storm. She becomes like a leaf moved by the wind of his mood. But true strength begins when she understands that her worth cannot be given and cannot be taken away. It is not something to be earned. It already exists within her. When a woman sees herself through her own eyes, and not only through the eyes of her partner, the chains of suffering begin to fall away. She no longer waits for validation to tell her she is smart enough, good enough, or attractive enough. She does not wait for approval to believe in her own dreams. She does not tie her identity to the role someone else places upon her. She knows who she is because she has taken the time to discover it within. This self-recognition is the soil from which her confidence grows. The greatest tragedy is not when someone else fails to see your value. The greatest tragedy is when you fail to see it yourself. Many women continue to fight for scraps of affection because deep down they do not believe they deserve more. But once a woman awakens to her own worth, she no longer begs for respect. She embodies it. She no longer chases for attention. She radiates from within. This shift is subtle yet life-changing. Consider a flower in a field. It does not bloom because someone stands beside it and praises its colors. It blooms because it is its nature to bloom. It takes its nourishment from the sun, the soil, and the rain. In the same way, a woman must nourish her own spirit. Her self-worth is not a reflection of how others treat her, but a reflection of how she treats herself. She must choose to speak kindly to herself, to honor her emotions, and to believe that she is whole even when others fail to see it. In a relationship, when a woman relies too heavily on external validation, she gives away her power. Every word of criticism cuts too deeply. Every moment of neglect feels like abandonment. She bends and twists herself in countless ways just to receive approval. This is not love. This is self-betrayal. But when she finds strength within, she is no longer shaken by another's inability to recognize her value. She knows her own worth, and from that place, she makes choices that bring peace instead of pain. This understanding also changes the way she loves. A woman who recognizes her worth does not cling desperately out of fear. She does not stay silent when boundaries are crossed. She does not lose herself just to keep someone else comfortable. Instead, she gives love freely, but she does not abandon herself in the process. She is able to love from a place of wholeness and freedom, not from emptiness and need. Ending suffering in a relationship begins with this foundation. The moment a woman understands her worth is not measured by validation, she becomes unshakable. Criticism does not destroy her. Praise does not inflate her. She remains steady in the knowledge that she is already enough. And with this knowledge, she can either continue the relationship in dignity or walk away in strength. When a woman no longer depends on validation to define her, she steps into her true power, and suffering loses its hold on her life. Letting go is one of the hardest lessons a woman will ever face in a relationship, yet it is also one of the most liberating. So much of her suffering comes from holding on too tightly to people who no longer bring peace, from clinging to attachments that drain her energy, and from refusing to release what is already slipping away. A woman may stay because she remembers the beautiful moments that once existed. She may stay because she hopes that things will return to what they were. She may stay because fear whispers that without this connection, she will be lost. But what she does not realize is that by holding on to something that hurts, she delays her own healing. Attachments can disguise themselves as love, but not every attachment is love. Sometimes it is habit. Sometimes it is fear of change. Sometimes it is the longing for a story that no longer matches reality. The more she clings, the more she suffers. The more she resists the truth, the heavier her heart becomes. Letting go does not mean she never loved. It does not mean she failed. It means she has chosen to protect her soul. It means she understands that love is not meant to be chains. It is meant to bring freedom and growth. The idea of letting go frightens many because it feels like losing everything. But in truth, what she loses are illusions. What she gains is space for peace, clarity, and renewal. Imagine holding a rope with all your strength while it is being pulled away. The tighter you grip, the more pain it causes your hands. The moment you release it, the pain stops. Life and relationships are the same. Letting go is the act of releasing the rope and giving your spirit the chance to breathe again. A woman who learns to let go realizes that she cannot control how someone else feels, acts, or loves. She cannot force someone to change. She cannot make someone stay who wants to leave. She cannot keep sacrificing her peace in the hope that one day things will be different. By letting go, she is no longer fighting against reality. She chooses instead to flow with it. This acceptance is not weakness. It is the highest strength. It is the wisdom to say, I will not hold what hurts me anymore. Letting go is also a path of self-respect. When a woman releases what drains her, she sends a message to herself that she deserves better. She no longer accepts constant disappointment as normal. She no longer confuses pain with passion. She no longer explains away disrespect in the name of love. She knows that love, which destroys her spirit, is not love at all. And so she chooses to step back, to heal, to breathe, and to create space for a love that honors her fully. There is beauty in this courage. It is the courage to walk away from the familiar and step into the unknown. It is the courage to face nights of loneliness with the faith that healing will come. It is the courage to believe that letting go does not end her story. It begins a new one. She learns that her happiness is not locked in the hands of someone else. It is already within her, waiting to be awakened again. And once she lets go, something remarkable happens. Her heart becomes lighter. Her mind becomes clearer. She feels her own strength returning. She discovers that life still holds joy, beauty, and love in many forms. She learns that she was never truly losing anything essential. She was only shedding what no longer served her. Ending suffering in a relationship requires this act of release. It requires the bravery to let go of attachments that only create pain. A woman who learns to do this does not become weaker. She becomes free. And in that freedom, she discovers the strength to live with peace and dignity once again. There comes a time in every woman's journey when she realizes that protecting her heart and spirit is not selfish but necessary. In relationships, much of the suffering she endures comes from boundaries that are never set or from lines that are constantly crossed. When she says yes while her soul is screaming no, she teaches others that her peace is not important. When she tolerates disrespect for the sake of harmony, she sacrifices her dignity for temporary comfort. But real harmony cannot exist when her own voice is silenced. A woman ends suffering when she learns to set clear boundaries that protect her peace and dignity. Boundaries are not walls. They are not about shutting people out. They are about creating a space where love can grow in respect and balance. Without boundaries, a relationship becomes uneven, one person giving everything while the other takes endlessly. This imbalance drains the spirit. It leaves her exhausted emotionally and mentally. Boundaries are the lines that say, here is where I honor myself, here is where I draw the limit so that I do not lose who I am. Many women struggle with this because they fear that if they set limits, they will be seen as unkind or unloving. They worry that they will push people away or that they will no longer be accepted. But what truly pushes people away is resentment that builds quietly when needs are ignored. What destroys love faster than anything is the slow erosion of respect. Boundaries are not an enemy of love, they are the foundation of it. For without respect, love cannot last. Setting boundaries begins with knowing her worth. When a woman believes she is valuable, she will not allow anyone to treat her as less. She will not accept constant criticism, manipulation, or neglect as normal. She will not permit her partner to dismiss her feelings or to cross her limits without consequence. Instead, she will calmly but firmly state what she can and cannot accept. And when her boundary is tested, she will hold it without fear of losing approval. Because she understands that if love only exists when she abandons herself, then it is not love worth keeping. Boundaries also protect her peace. In relationships, arguments and conflicts will happen, but when boundaries are respected, these moments do not turn into cycles of chaos. A woman with clear limits does not allow endless disrespectful words to flood her space. She does not allow constant demands to wear down her energy. She does not allow her partner's moods to dictate her entire state of being. She chooses what enters her inner world and what does not. This choice gives her balance and strength. It is important to understand that boundaries are not built on anger. They are built on self-respect. They are not shouted, they are lived. They show in the way she carries herself, in the decisions she makes, in the standards she refuses to lower. A calm no spoken with clarity is more powerful than 100 explanations. A quiet refusal to accept mistreatment speaks louder than desperate pleas to be valued. Over time, boundaries reshape the relationship itself. If her partner respects them, the love deepens, because both are able to feel safe and seen. If her partner resists them, then she receives clarity about what kind of relationship she is in. Either way, she suffers less, because she no longer lives in confusion. She no longer doubts whether she is asking for too much. She knows she is only asking for what every soul deserves: respect, peace, and dignity. A woman who sets boundaries sends a message to herself and to the world. She declares that her heart is precious, that her mind is worthy of peace, that her spirit is not to be broken. She teaches others how to treat her by how she treats herself. And in doing so, she transforms her suffering into strength. When a woman sets clear boundaries that protect her peace and dignity, she no longer loses herself inside the storm of another. She remains steady, she remains whole, and in that wholeness, suffering fades. One of the deepest roots of suffering in a relationship is the refusal to see things as they are. A woman often clings to the image of what she wishes the relationship could be rather than accepting what it truly is. She may hold on to the memory of better days and hope that the person she loves will return to the version she first met. She may convince herself that the constant pain is only temporary, or that if she loves enough, the situation will change. But illusions only prolong her struggle. A woman ends suffering when she embraces clarity and sees reality as it is, not as she wishes it to be. Clarity is not always comfortable. It often means facing truths that the heart does not want to accept. It means admitting that promises have been broken too many times. It means recognizing that patterns of disrespect are not accidents but choices. It means accepting that the relationship she imagined may never exist. These truths sting, but they also free her. Because until she sees clearly, she cannot take the steps that protect her soul. Clarity shines a light on the path forward. Without it, she remains trapped in the shadows of denial. When a woman begins to see reality, she also begins to understand the difference between hope and illusion. Hope is grounded in what is possible when two people are willing to work together. Illusion is waiting endlessly for someone who shows no effort to change. Hope lifts her forward, but illusion keeps her stuck. The suffering deepens when she mistakes one for the other. By embracing clarity, she learns to separate genuine growth from empty promises. Seeing reality also demands courage, because it often requires her to look at herself as well. She must ask why she allowed herself to stay in a place that harms her. She must face the fear that makes her cling to what she knows, even when it hurts. She must confront the truth that sometimes the hardest chains to break are the ones we build around ourselves. This self-honesty is not to blame herself, but to empower herself. When she sees clearly not only the actions of her partner, but also her own patterns, she gains the strength to change her story. Clarity does not mean she becomes cold or loses her ability to love. It simply means she stops painting over the cracks. It means she values truth over comfort. She can still love deeply, but now her love is guided by wisdom. She no longer confuses suffering with loyalty. She no longer accepts pain as proof of devotion. She loves with eyes open, knowing that real love is not built on illusions, but on reality. A woman who sees clearly also begins to notice the signs she once ignored. She sees how her boundaries are crossed. She sees how her energy is drained. She sees how her joy is dimmed. And in this vision, she finds the courage to make decisions that honor her well-being. Sometimes clarity will lead her to speak honestly and invite her partner to meet her in respect. Other times, clarity will show her that the only path left is to walk away. Either choice becomes easier when she is guided by truth rather than by illusions. It is not the truth that causes suffering. It is the resistance to truth. When she fights reality, she creates endless conflict within herself. But when she embraces it, she feels a strange calm, even in the midst of heartbreak. Because she knows she is no longer deceiving herself. She knows that by seeing clearly, she has taken the first step toward peace. A woman who embraces clarity no longer lives in the prison of what if. She stands in what is. From this place she can decide with strength whether to rebuild or to release. And whatever path she chooses, she will walk it with dignity, because her eyes are open. When a woman embraces clarity and sees reality as it is not as she wishes it to be, she breaks free from illusions, and suffering loses its power over her. There is a strength within every woman that often remains hidden beneath years of doubt, fear, and dependence. Many times in a relationship, she forgets this strength because she invests so much of her energy in the other person. She waits for reassurance, she depends on his approval, she fears his absence. Over time, this dependence becomes a prison that chains her spirit. To end suffering, she must begin to cultivate inner strength and emotional independence. This is not about closing her heart or living without love. It is about rediscovering her own power and realizing that her well-being is not tied to the choices or moods of another. Inner strength is the quiet confidence that grows when she begins to trust herself. It is the voice inside that says, even if I stand alone, I can still rise. It is the calm assurance that she can face life's challenges without collapsing. When she develops this strength, she is no longer desperate for constant validation. She does not crumble when faced with criticism. She does not lose her sense of worth when she is ignored or mistreated. Instead, she learns to stand steady in who she is regardless of what others think. Emotional independence does not mean she becomes distant or detached. It means she learns to hold her emotions with awareness rather than handing them over for someone else to control. If he withdraws, she does not immediately break. If he praises her, she is grateful but not dependent. Her emotions are not dictated by another's actions. She feels love, joy, and pain, but she remains grounded. This independence gives her freedom, because she no longer fears being abandoned. She realizes she can carry her own heart with care. Cultivating this strength requires patience and practice. It begins with self-awareness. A woman must learn to notice the moments she gives away her power. She must recognize when she is staying silent, just to keep peace, when she is tolerating disrespect, just to avoid being alone, or when she is sacrificing her dreams for someone else's comfort. These moments reveal where her strength is hidden. Once she sees them clearly, she can begin to reclaim her power one choice at a time. Simple acts build inner strength. Speaking her truth calmly even when it feels uncomfortable. Taking time to care for her body and mind even when others demand her attention. Making decisions for her own growth even if they are not approved by everyone around her. Each act sends a message to herself. That message is, I am strong enough to live authentically. I am worthy enough to choose peace. I am capable enough to carry myself forward. With emotional independence comes a new way of loving. She no longer loves out of fear of being left. She no longer clings because she believes she cannot survive alone. Instead, she chooses to love because she wants to, not because she has to. This makes her love pure. It removes the heavy chains of desperation and replaces them with freedom. Her partner no longer carries the burden of being her only source of happiness. She brings happiness into the relationship from within herself. This balance allows love to grow in a healthier way. Inner strength also prepares her for loss. Life is unpredictable. People change, situations shift, and relationships sometimes end. Without inner strength, these moments break a woman completely. But with strength, she can grieve without being destroyed. She can feel sadness, but still trust her ability to move forward. She can let go with grace because she knows she is whole on her own. Suffering in relationships often comes from the fear of standing alone. But once a woman cultivates emotional independence, she no longer fears solitude. She discovers that being alone is not emptiness, but an opportunity to connect with herself. She learns to enjoy her own presence, to nurture her own dreams, and to walk her own path with dignity. When a woman cultivates inner strength and emotional independence, she ends the cycle of dependence that feeds suffering. She no longer waits for someone to carry her. She carries herself with courage, and in that strength she finds true freedom. One of the most powerful decisions a woman can make in a relationship is to choose peace over constant conflict and chaos. Many times suffering continues because she becomes so accustomed to the storms that she forgets what calmness feels like. She may think that love must always be loud, dramatic, and full of endless arguments. She may even convince herself that this is passion, when in truth it is a cycle of destruction. To end suffering, she must learn to step away from chaos and anchor herself in peace. Peace is not the absence of love. Peace is the presence of respect, trust, and balance. Without peace, a relationship cannot truly nourish her. Every day becomes a battlefield where she must defend her feelings, prove her worth, or fight for basic kindness. This kind of life drains her spirit and weakens her body. Chaos may keep the relationship alive on the surface, but it slowly kills her happiness from within. To choose peace is to say, my soul is too precious to live in constant turmoil. Conflict will always exist between two people because no one is perfect and no relationship is without challenges. But there is a difference between healthy disagreements and destructive chaos. A healthy disagreement allows both voices to be heard. It ends with understanding and growth. Chaos, on the other hand, leaves her feeling unheard, unloved, and unsafe. It repeats itself like a storm that never passes. When she chooses peace, she learns to recognize this difference. She understands that a relationship that brings only conflict is not a sign of love, but of imbalance. The decision to choose peace requires courage, because it often means walking away from cycles that feel familiar. Many women stay in conflict because they are afraid of silence. Silence feels empty. Chaos at least feels alive. But silence is not emptiness. It is the ground where healing begins. Only in peace can she hear her own thoughts clearly. Only in peace can she rediscover who she is beyond the arguments and the noise. Choosing peace also means she refuses to sacrifice her mental and emotional health for the sake of keeping the relationship. She understands that no bond is worth losing her inner calm. She learns to step back from arguments that lead nowhere. She no longer allows herself to be pulled into endless battles that only repeat old wounds. Instead, she invests her energy in actions that bring healing. She spends time with people who uplift her. She fills her days with practices that bring stillness, such as reflection or prayer. In doing so, she rebuilds her strength and finds clarity in her path forward. Sometimes choosing peace will mean having difficult conversations where she calmly sets the standard of how she expects to be treated. Other times it will mean creating distance when her boundaries are ignored. And in certain moments it will mean making the final choice to walk away when the chaos becomes unending. None of these actions are easy, but each one carries the same message. My peace matters. My soul matters. My life is too valuable to be lived in constant war. When a woman chooses peace, she begins to see love differently. She no longer confuses shouting with care or jealousy with devotion. She no longer romanticizes chaos as proof of passion. Instead, she recognizes that real love feels steady. It brings safety and warmth. It allows her to breathe deeply and live fully. This love may not always be dramatic, but it is real. It grows in the quiet strength of peace. Ending suffering in a relationship is not about winning every fight. It is about choosing not to live in a fight at all. When a woman decides that her peace is more important than endless conflict, she takes back her power. she discovers that chaos is not her destiny. Calmness is. And in this calmness, she finds the freedom to live with dignity and strength once again. There is a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that staying in a place where love no longer respects her is the deepest form of self-betrayal. For too long she may have endured words that cut her spirit, silences that froze her heart, and actions that dismissed her worth. She may have convinced herself that things would get better, that patience would heal the wounds, that sacrifice would somehow restore the love she once felt. But the truth is simple: where respect is absent, love cannot survive. A woman ends her suffering when she finds the courage to walk away with dignity, when love no longer honors her. Walking away is not about hatred or bitterness. It is not about revenge or proving something to another. It is about protecting her soul. It is about choosing freedom over chains, calmness over constant pain, and self-respect over endless compromise. Many women remain in relationships far beyond their natural end because they fear being alone. Yet solitude is never the true enemy. Loneliness inside a relationship that does not value her is far heavier than standing alone in truth. The act of walking away requires strength because it demands that she let go of the dream she once carried. It means releasing the version of love she built in her imagination and accepting that reality no longer matches it. It means grieving not only the person, but also the hope of what could have been. This grief is real, but it is also healing. For when she walks away, she creates space for her wounds to close and her spirit to breathe again. Respect is the foundation of love. Without respect, affection becomes shallow and promises lose meaning. When her feelings are ignored, when her boundaries are violated, when her voice is silenced, love turns into control or indifference. To walk away from such a situation is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that her life is too valuable to waste in a place that diminishes her. When a woman chooses to walk away, she begins a journey back to herself. At first, fear may whisper that she cannot survive without the relationship, that she is incomplete on her own. But with every step she takes, she realizes the strength that has always lived within her. She discovers that her laughter returns more freely. Her sleep becomes deeper. Her mind becomes clearer. She sees that walking away was not the end, but the beginning of reclaiming her own life. Courage does not mean she feels no pain. It means she refuses to let pain decide her future. Courage does not mean she forgets the love that once existed. It means she honors it while also honoring the truth that it no longer serves her. Courage is the quiet decision to choose self-respect above all else, even when her heart trembles. In walking away with courage, she also sets an example for others. She shows that dignity cannot be bargained, that self-worth cannot be negotiated, that no woman should stay where she is treated as less than she deserves. Her choice inspires others to examine their own lives and to believe that they too are capable of breaking free from cycles of suffering. Over time, she learns that love rooted in respect still exists. But to find it, she must first create space by leaving behind what dishonored her. She realizes that love which uplifts, supports, and honors her begins with the love she shows herself. Walking away is not an act of abandonment. It is an act of self-preservation. It is choosing to stand tall, even if her voice shakes, even if her steps are uncertain, because she knows her soul is worth protecting. When a woman finds the courage to walk away with dignity from a love that no longer respects her, she ends suffering and opens the door to a life where her worth is no longer questioned but honored. Every woman carries within her the power to transform her story. Suffering in a relationship does not have to be her destiny. By realizing that her worth is not dependent on another's validation, by letting go of attachments that drain her spirit, by setting firm boundaries that guard her dignity, by embracing clarity and seeing reality as it is, by cultivating inner strength and emotional independence, by choosing peace over conflict, and by walking away with courage when love no longer respects her, she rises into her true self. Each of these steps is not about turning against love, but about returning to love that begins within. It is about honoring her heart, her spirit, and her life. To every woman listening, may you find the courage to choose yourself, the wisdom to see clearly, and the strength to walk with dignity no matter what path lies ahead. May you never forget that you are worthy of respect, peace, and love that uplifts rather than diminishes you. Good luck on your journey of freedom and healing. And thank you for giving your heart the chance to breathe again.